Hello, Scott and everyone. Welcome to Awaken Hidden Truth.
Hello, Perry. Oh, it took us an hour just to get to start the show today, didn't it?
Correct.
But it takes time sometimes to prepare for things because a lot of other things are involved for the people who may listen or will listen. And things are often set up off world and in ways that people aren't yet awake, recovered enough awareness to understand yet. Some people call spiritual guides or really beings from other worlds who know how to leave their bodies who are helping them. And then there are things called master teachers, which most of whom are not known on Earth and not in its history. Some are. The universe is a big place. The planets that are out there, the galaxies that are out there, the beings that get around the universe, either as atmas, out of body, which doesn't require the limits of space travel or the speed of light or anything else, and beings that can travel much faster than the speed of light to get across creation are out there. Certain highly placed classified. It's hidden government that was created after World War II officially because it does not answer to or reply to or respond to people in Congress or senators or presidents, or it has its own system of operating, and it was done to keep a lid on the knowledge of extraterrestrials because not all of them were good, and it would have terrorized a population after World War II ended to disclose to them that our government and others were dealing with extraterrestrials, that some were tyrants and some were really evolved and very benevolent, and they weren't all out for the good of this world. So their thinking at the time was, out of their own fear, was to just close all that down, classify it completely, get people to rebuild the damaged world after World War II and make babies and feel like procreating, feel safe. Now that World War II has ended, they wanted the world to feel safe to rebuild everything, and that's why they did it. It wasn't correct thinking because it was based on their own fear. Even Eisenhower, former president of the United States, who was the head of all operations in the war, the only five-star general in history, kind of oversaw all the operations for World War II, even with the Brits. He was like the head of all of it. And then after he stepped aside from that, he ran for president and became president of the United States. So Truman passed that rod of power, that responsibility on to Eisenhower. Well, there's the Kennedys, and he passed it on to the Kennedys and that kind of thing. But not all presidents have been in the know about the highest levels of classified material dealing with extraterrestrial and extraterrestrial technology, because it still remained classified to this day. It's used as an excuse to keep things classified, particularly when it comes to dealing with weapons development that are based on any extraterrestrial technology, because this country and its allies don't want it getting into the hands of terrorists, and they're in competition with people like China and Putin and Russia, and yet they work together in secret as well. That's still classified too. The spraying of chemtrails takes place through a classified system through the United Nations. That's why they can fly them over every country. Why they're doing it is classified. They're doing it out of desperation to solve problems that they're not telling the public about. They're not doing it to kill off people. That'd be a waste of trillions of dollars and decades of years of time to task these classified pilots to dump all this stuff in the upper atmosphere. They could have done that with a colorless, odorless gas in one sortie of planes in one day and kill everybody easily at almost no cost compared to what they're spending to do the chemtrails. They've backed off spraying a lot of them now that this COVID thing has taken so much expense and time and energy to solve. So they don't spray them as often as they used to. They haven't sprayed it for days out here in California. All blue skies. I guess it's a question of personnel and manpower and finance to do it all and get it all solved. They're being compelled, and I'll have to say this, because of their own incorrect decision making after World War II, they're being compelled to work together in ways they would not have done otherwise. If the pandemic hadn't been here, something else would have forced them to work together. It has to be a cooperation all over the world to solve this problem. It's not a fun thing that people die from it. People die from colds and flus every year and other things. This one usually kills people that have other problems, the health problems already. It has killed some young people, but mostly older folks that are more vulnerable have much more trouble surviving getting this kind of a flu, let's say, coronavirus or COVID-19, they're calling it. But it's just the beginning of change that's heading this way. It's a sad thing in a way, and it's a good thing to realize that people on Earth, governments in particular, in competition with each other, don't really work together as one world under one sky on one atmosphere around one planet like they should be. Because if they were, this planet would just then be normal. Just normal. So that's how out of balance things are on Earth. The people running things are themselves misdirected subconsciously. They have their own fears. They want to maintain the status quo and keep lying to people, keep the disclosure of life in other worlds still classified, and yet they're being compelled to disclose it because beings from other worlds have basically directly told them that something's underway now where they have to do this. It means that we don't have a future in space travel the way this planet is run. And they're not going to allow us to go out among the stars the way we are. It's quarantined, this solar system. That's classified. And it's being done so it will compel leaders to get off this fear of disclosure as long as they're assured that they will not be harmed or put up against a wall and shot or anything like that. Because they have also been subconsciously manipulated just like the masses of people. So that has to be undone. Much work is being done now by associates of mine and countless numbers from other worlds and other realities and other dimensional realities to help turn this planet around and solve it so it can take its place among the stars. It is a planet of unconscious human beings that has the potential to do that, but not the way we are now. You're not going to see a classified space program here going out into the stars and other planets and world systems other than tyrants, because the good guys aren't going to let us play in their arenas the way we are. People on Earth are too competitive and destructive and fear-ridden. I'm talking about military people and space pilots, and astronauts and government people and classified people and CIA. They have their own fears and traumas to work through that are subconscious. They have subconscious programs affecting them that they didn't put there. And so you can't expect people to make good decisions on a planetary scale that are making those decisions based on their own fear of the future. Fear is negative. The repercussions of using the imagination with fear always produces negative results, always. They can't do anything other than that. You don't get positive results from making decisions based on fear. That's impossible. So people that are in power now, or they think they have power, it's a petty little thing because their lives are so short and comes and go, there's no power they really have. They don't even have the power to be eternal as beings. They think they're bodies and brains with a temporary life, and they fear death just like everybody else. And none of that is real. Not compared to the real being that's running a body, which is spherical. It's the Atma, what people on Earth call soul, without knowing a thing about it. Who they are, what they are, How can you expect people like that to run the world and do the right thing? They won't. So they're going to need the assistance of beings who don't have this subconscious problem. And I'm not talking about any extraterrestrial tyrants, in order to help people get free of this stuff that was done to them by science, a misuse of science so far beyond the science on Earth. There isn't any way they could have defended themselves against it at the time. The opportunity is here now and coming this way through this world for them to be getting relieved of this subconscious misdirection so they can confidently make full disclosure to people here, and governments can collectively work together. Tyrant systems are on their way out. Out there in the universe. This world is not going to stand alone with a bunch of tyrants and dictators and kings and queens running it the way it is now forever, because the universe is changing around it and it's moving in one direction. So if we want to go have field trips to other planets and raise our kids and families enlightened and knowing who they are, a lot has to change on this planet before we're going to be allowed to do that. And yet the offer has been made several times to leaders on this world, classified, to change it at no cost or charge. And they've been turned down by the fear that runs people here, not by anything else. So those decisions were incorrect, but the people who made them thought they were correct. And yet over the decades, they realized those were really wrong decisions. And only tyrants encourage them to make these kinds of decisions for their own selfish ends. So when those tyrants are removed from bases on Earth underground, and when they're sent away from this world and this solar system, people on Earth need to start making better choices and making agreements with beings that can help free this planet and its people. Now this is going to be true for everyone on Earth. Not just the people who have been suppressed and kept stupid. Leaders, kings, queens, classified people, military people, everyone. They can't be done any other way. There's no self-righteous group of one person that's superior to another that says we get to be free and go to heaven and you don't. That kind of thinking has been promoted by tyrant rulers on this planet to maintain control and suppression of people. It's an old way of doing things, and that whole thing, that way of doing things, was imported to this planet from elsewhere. Kings and queens that used to run this planet before there was even a United States did not invent royalty. That was imported here by tyrants over a history for this planet that people have no idea existed. Long before Lemurian Atlantis, long before the last polar shift 100,000 years ago, back into millions upon millions and millions of years. All the way back to the time of the dinosaurs, the big ones were made extinct here, so human beings could be brought here. And they were. Every race on Earth didn't evolve here. They evolved in world systems out there. Asian people with regular eyes, little slanted eyes, or different kind of yellow skin, or American Indian, or Aboriginal, or African American, or Caucasian, Semitic, they didn't evolve on this planet. There isn't a scientist on this planet that can prove that. It's all theory. There's no missing link they're going to find to Cro-Magnon Neanderthal ever, because it doesn't exist on this planet. They find skeletons 18-foot tall human to 25 and classify them because they're extraterrestrial, millions of years old. They're classified because it has to do with the extraterrestrial issue. Until that is no longer classified, this planet will be in serious trouble of self-destruction, either through pollution, global warming, the infrared and ultraviolet. They can't get back out in space. Things heat up. Eventually it becomes an ice age. This is going at an extraordinary fast rate towards that direction. The polar flips that former Soviet Union scientists and U.S. scientists investigated during Daytona under Gorbachev, before he was moved out of power, verified that polar flips happen here every 100,000 years. They said 80 to 120,000, but they didn't want to stake their reputation on an exact date, but they knew. And when they dug deeper, they found out, and they took these core samples, that this was cyclic and we were overdue for one. It's an event that changes continental land masses and raises new ones from the seafloor in 24 hours. And that kills almost everything that can't get off the planet. It's an immensely violent affair. The planet survives. Human beings, if you're lucky, 2,000 that might be on the top of some mountain that is now like an island, like Hawaii. Maybe they survive it, because now there's whole new continental landmass. This whole thing of pandemic, what they call it, not pandemic, where continents drift with tectonic plates and over millions of years they shift and change all these shapes. That isn't right. What's classified is that it happens overnight and it's extremely violent. You don't tell people, if you're running governments and want to maintain businesses, space programs, people going to work and raising, you don't tell them that kind of stuff. Because you can't stop it or do anything about it as a government anyway, so you classify it. And it's extraterrestrial related as well. And we've talked about this, you and me, Perry, about several people, particularly two, I think, really right now are being worked with when they're out of their bodies at night, who have exorbitant amounts of money here. And they're losing their attachment to the illusion of power. And they realize it's just energy. And they're starting to be prepared they're going to be contacting me, some have. But they will because they want to begin to work with changing the world in a safe, undestructive or non-destructive manner. Because the way they're doing it ain't going to work. On their own, it's just going to make more mistakes and it's going to go up in smoke. They can't even solve the common cold because their money's been put in all the wrong places, particularly since World War II, but even before that. And they haven't put it into this common sense of making a technology that will neutralize imbalanced isotopes we call radioactive materials like uranium, plutonium. There's a science that neutralizes that so they're not harmful. They didn't put any money or energy into solving that problem. People from other worlds have the ability to do it, can share it with us easily. But we have to be willing to give up these destructive toys. Nuclear bombs? There's no constructive use for any of that, ever. There's no constructive use long-term for a nuclear power plant. The elements that drive that to boil water to make steam to make electricity will kill everything if it gets out of their little containers. Fukushima is an example of that. 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl. Something else happened with Fukushima, because it was far worse than Chernobyl was. And that whole area, from hundreds of square miles, whole cities are just quarantined. They're radioactive. 3 of those plants blew their tops off. The radioactive rods right out in the atmosphere. Far worse than Chernobyl. And yet everybody's alive. The radiation that was coming to shore in plumes at reaching 60 rads and climbing, measured in laboratories. The time even the governor of the state was willing to test these things if people got samples for free. And it was measured at 60 rads and climbing. It would have killed a lot of life here. It should have killed everybody in Japan. Thailand, the eastern part of Russia and China, it was serious. We had some help from friends from out of town. They didn't take credit for it, and they didn't announce it. But one day, that radiation in that water and those plumes coming towards the northwestern coast of the United States disappeared from the water, just gone. Military-industrial complex on this planet did not do that. If we were really alone in the universe, we would all be dead. Now, beings that are kind and very advanced don't want to run governments on this planet. Who would want that nightmare? They want people on Earth to change to run it properly, and they're willing to help us do that. And until we can accept that and step out of the terrorizing fear and have a little courage, show a little backbone, they're going to have to trust fellow beings elsewhere than just on Earth to get this done. Tyrants convinced them that you could have technology like nuclear bombs and all that, and they didn't care if we got rid of them. It was the worst mistake people ever made in a classified government with the wrong people. They know that now. And they're still afraid to take that next step, but they are going to have to. That is a choice they are no longer given. That's a misuse of free will. So they're not being given the free will to blow this place up. They tried during the Cold War 12 times I know of. Do we even be alive here right now if beings didn't at least stop that nonsense? Without running governments here, let's put it that way. So I don't worry about nuclear war. I know most people do. It's used as a club to keep people afraid and keeping the status quo in militaries and governments as they are. But it's an illusion. No one's been allowed to set off nuclear bombs in the atmosphere for decades. And that was agreed by all the countries. And why? Why did they agree to do that? Because if they'd kept blowing them up just to test them, it would have killed all life. We wouldn't even have needed a nuclear war. Wouldn't have needed one. Just testing those, hundreds of them were set off. That would have done it. And we're paying the price now with this COVID stuff. Any of these mutated strains of viruses coming from radioactive particles on this planet that people here set off deliberately. So that's classified because governments would be responsible for reparations for all that. They've passed laws to keep people from being able to sue them. Can't sue the government. You know, it's that kind of thing. The way things are unfolding out there, which is what my work is all about and why I'm here on this planet, is not about taking over. It's not about destruction. It's not about shooting anybody. It's not about blaming anybody. It's about correcting subconscious misdirected programs that are put in people by a technology, an alien technology, and they didn't even know it was being done to them. It doesn't change the personality, a sense of humor. It just misdirects them for the selfish ends of a race that's not from this planet. That was brought into the United States and Russia from the Nazi scientists who were connected to them, that they brought into these countries and pardoned. Worst mistakes they ever made. But once it was done, it was done. And they've been struggling to get out of that trap ever since. So we know that certain beings came here and contacted the President of the United States and other countries at different times, several times, to offer them the changing of this planet at no cost if they would give up nuclear weapons and radioactive materials that man-made, created, altered them to be unstable, to be deadly radioactive. That was created by people on Earth using technology that was given to them illegally from off-world. That's nothing ever good can come from that ever down the road at any time. It's not a good way to get energy, to use radioactive materials. And nuclear bombs will ruin your whole day. There's no way you can use them. One country against another. It just sets off a chain reaction that wipes out all life. You can't use them in space because space is already occupied and they're not going to let us use them out there. There are people in classified people here that know this, that we're not going to be allowed to do that. So disclosure is inevitable. It is a good thing. It's a constructive thing. It's not the way beings are working with this from off-world. It's not going to be done in a way where people are going to riot in the streets and people are going to stop shipping food and everybody's going to go nuts. No. That is not the way to change a planet. The technology to cure all diseases, turn on genomes that are turned off, stop cancer and all that, is old science out there. It's not new. Earth just doesn't have the privilege to use it yet because we're not trustworthy, capable of using it properly. So it's being withheld from us until we can be trusted. The beings out there are more motivated to get Earth changed than people on Earth are. And that's a sad statement. about mankind on earth and how backward they are. Fear, subconscious fear, is what causes them to make these errors in judgment. So fear is the first thing as an artificial program implanted in beings that needs to be neutralized on this earth in people. Everyone. And that means everyone. No one excluded. This world can't go on thinking it's going to take all these different countries in this competitive corporate struggle for power and money and things and resources out there in space, throw up that on all those other races out there because they're far more advanced than us. And many of them are human, and they are not going to tolerate that. I wouldn't. Would you, if you were them? Well, let's chat for a minute, Perry. Turn on your mic. We get a better recording quality with it off, but that's not why it's off. It's just so we get a better recording quality. Do you have any questions about that? Some of your people may have.
No, today I don't have, sorry.
Okay, that's
But-
all right. Don't be sorry. We do this because
but I, hold on, please. Sorry. I appreciate, all the, what you are telling us, is like really awaken people, Scott. It's very helpful, and the truth we cannot find anywhere else, I would say. And because I've been working with you for almost 3 years, myself, my experience, brought me to the life that the life that I don't expect, very in serenity and very happy life, and understand more.
You understand that you have control now over whether you put energy into fear of the present and future or not. That's part of enlightenment. All beings have this ability, but they don't believe it, and they're afraid of it. They're afraid of freedom. They're afraid of remembering who they are that isn't a physical body, because none of them have ever been a physical body. None of the beings running cows and sheep and dolphins and whales are the physical bodies they're running. Beings run these things. These machines that run it, a human body on Earth runs at 98 degrees, 0.7, whatever, Fahrenheit. I don't know what it is in centigrade, but it's a type of DNA structure that the being runs. A brain does not motivate itself. The being running the body motivates it to do and talk and do what it does. And this is the first primary thing that people need to recover in awareness, because so many races out there in the physical universe that travel the stars understand this. Not as theory, not as data. They experience it. They know. So these are the types of beings that can help, I don't want to say retrain, but help people remember and recall who they are on Earth. But people on Earth need to request it. They're not going to just come down and beat people over the head with it. Tyrants do that, and then they're not there to set you free anyway. So we need to invite them, and we need to do this as a mass of people. You can't have a bunch of hidden leaders inviting them, and while they're lying to 7 billion other people. It won't work. It's not the way we work. Yeah.
Can I say more? I would like to share this with the audience, whoever listens to our shows. I would like to express my love for Scott and the being friends, because I could feel the love of Scott and the being friends that really help everyone on planet Earth. And it's very pure love in this show. Scott mentioned many times that there is no money involved, and we are doing this with the love and the help from Scott and being friends. I don't know what to say, but you guys have to go through experience we call direct experience, so you would understand.
Right, exactly. Thank you, Perry, because as you know, my work is about helping people have their own direct experience with recovering a thing called knowing certainty, or direct knowing perception, or direct knowing, direct knowing perception, direct knowing certainty. There is no negative emotion, which are artificial and negative, and they misdirect people and keep people using their higher faculties of being suppressed. They're turned off, basically, because people are afraid to remember them. That goes into programs that are in their, what people call the subconscious. Plays on the nervous system when they're stimulated, like a recording, and then people have this fear, trauma to their body, and then they make decisions from there, and they're always incorrect. always. They can't be anything else than that. So when you discover how to not give any energy as a being, not a body, not a brain, the being, awaken, when it stops giving energy to those programs, they're like a bad habit, an addiction, then they turn off. And then the being begins to recover their higher faculties and they begin to remember. The earth is going through a process that has happened in other worlds rarely, but it's happened in other worlds. But it's happening on earth in a very unique way for the first time in ways that never existed before out there. The consciousness of beings out there has changed dramatically in the last 9 or so years, a little less than that, roughly that, which has motivated them to do more to help change this planet and others, not just Earth. And they work and travel in parallel dimensions out in the physical universe. They travel among the stars, the technicians, they're raised on planets. Some of them live 1,000 years or thousands more in one body because what's called the DNA, that genomes on the DNA that's turned off in people on Earth are turned on in them. You know, people on Earth have 100% developed brain, but they only use 6 to 10% of it. Because to use the other percentage of it, you have to use higher faculties of a being through the brain and the body to get them to work. The brain doesn't do it by itself. This is important for people to know. It's important for world leaders to know. It's important for people that are in classified areas to know, because they deserve the right to know too. Most of them are, except a few, are kept in the dark about all the stuff they're classified. It's a compartmentalized system. And if they have to lie to everybody and keep the truth, it makes them sick and ill, and it's negative. It can't produce positive results ultimately. So trillions of dollars are thrown at it to fix mistakes they made, to fix the mistakes, and then they make more mistakes, and it just goes like that. It cannot come out to a solution, to a resolution. You can't lie and produce constructive, uplifting results at the same time. It is not possible to do that. Because of one of the primary laws of physics, every action creates an equal but opposite reaction. Physicists and scientists and quantum physicists know this. When you're dealing with the physical universe, what people feel and imagine and put out there, fear of the present and the future, creates the reality of this planet. People are collectively keeping it stuck this way when it doesn't have to be this way anymore. People on Earth are actually in a position right now, without knowing it, to make a great leap in evolution. And there are beings outside of this world who are willing to help us do that, but we have to ask for it. They're not going to come down and beat us over the head with it. They will keep us from having nuclear war, because that would affect hundreds of billions of lives in parallel and other realities because of the nuclear bombs going off and what they do to these doorways to other realities that exist in a profuse number around this planet. On the bottom of the ocean, above volcanoes, in the upper atmosphere, and right out the atmosphere of this planet are doorways to other realities that were built into creation way back in the beginning. More advanced races who can map these out and how to travel through them. This is part of Quantum Physics Advanced 101. First of all, the energy that's out in space between everything, that's most of what is out there. Billions of galaxies sit in the little teeny parts of this huge black energy. It looks black. It isn't. It is an omnipresent field of living energy. It is energy, but it is not nuclear or atomic. It's not made of electrons and protons and atoms. More advanced quantum physicists probably know this now, or they're suspecting it, because in the CERN Super Collider in France, or not in France, in Switzerland, where the Large Hadron Collider, where they crash particles together near the speed of light in these huge electromagnetic field systems, they can detect energy behind matter. It does not operate according to the laws of physics. It isn't electrons and protons, it's behind them. So they don't know what to do with it or what it is or why it doesn't observe the law of physics as they know it. So they called it the God particle. Probably appropriately named. Now, here's the thing. Advanced scientists from other worlds know how to work with that void of space energy they used to call dark matter. Maybe they still do. It's only dark because human eyes aren't developed to where they can see into a high enough frequency to see what it's really like. It's not dark or black at all. It's a white golden light everywhere. And it's a telepathic medium. More advanced races know how to connect to it and work with it to get around the stars, even to between parallel dimensions. And you have to work with that 0 point or toroidal energy, which isn't nuclear, by the way, really, if you want to advance. They actually have to work with something which you would call spiritual in order for things to work, to go through warp drive and all that kind of stuff. You can't just use it any way you want. There are guardian beings who guard these doorways between realities, and you can't go throw your nuclear bombs through them. There have been races that have been completely disintegrated, whole worlds in the past when they tried that. Hopefully people aren't stupid enough on Earth to think that's something they can go take out there and play with it any way they want. Because, I will say this again, out of love for all life on this planet and elsewhere, space is already occupied by far more advanced races. Many of them human, and we all on this planet originate out there, not from this world. Human life did not evolve here. It's very old life, this form. And its potential to handle higher faculties of being and do many more incredible things like run 100% of your brain, be telepathic, have a photographic memory. This is normal for people on other worlds. Earth is not a normal human planet by any means yet. People think it is, but if you look at the condition of this world and how it's run, you know it's not. People are in self-denial if they think this is a normal planet and they've got free will. How does a person have free will if they can't remember who they are, that isn't a body or a brain, what they were and what they knew before they were born here, or how they ended up coming here with no memory, all wiped out, suppressed? They say God did that. They point to the sky and point to some God they can't know and don't think they can experience directly. And they say that was his contract. He said, it's good for you to go on Earth and be dumber than a brick. Get born in a body and not know anything. It's not normal. And it didn't come from the source behind all life, that either. More advanced races outside of this planet call it prime creator or source. It isn't a supreme being, a tyrant that rules over everybody with a mighty fist and pitchforks of lightning. If you don't do what it says, you get one of the keister. That's tyrant teaching, controlling priestcraft on Earth. There isn't a religion on Earth. I don't care who this might upset. They can have the greatest faith they wish, and I wish them the best with it. I'm not here to end anybody's faith or change what they believe, a religion they want or their heart's set on. But I am here to help bring real light and sound or real energy of vibrant consciousness into what people believe for their own good. In other words, there isn't a religion on Earth that's represented out there on other worlds among the stars. They are in the atmosphere of this planet. The names and how they were evolved on this planet. But they were original elements that were brought from other worlds where those religions really began. They didn't begin here. Out among the stars, you have planetary systems that have just African American type people. But they don't look like African Americans on Earth. They're a mix of many races, even today. Just like Caucasian, Asian, everybody's had a little bit of everybody's blood in them. Asian type people evolved in other world systems. Some are very tall, much taller than people on Earth. 10 feet, 15 feet tall. The Sayrays, like Ambassador Turellian, who I work with, from the most ancient human race out among the stars, didn't even evolve in our galaxy originally. And we get our DNA from them originally. This and many other bipedal spacefaring races. Long ago in galactic history. Turellian is very advanced. At the time they were human beings, they had 8-stranded DNA and they were 18 to 25 feet tall, the giant humans people have heard about. They aren't tyrants. Maybe a few of them became tyrants or got working with tyrants somewhere in history, but the bulk of them are not. And they immortalized their physical bodies over 1 billion years ago. Not by making them body live forever at this age, by dematerializing the molecular structure and storing it in one of the little faculties of their spherical being, what people call soul. So when they want to manifest one, they just use the energy of creation, the living energy between all things, and it fills up this pattern, this like a golden gridwork pattern. And the molecules just fill in the body, and you've got instant bodies standing there to carry out a mission. So they don't have the burden of carrying around a body like we do day after day. They manifest it, use it, and then dissolve it back and store it so they can move around freely without being restricted by the laws of time and space. As the Atma, they're not time and space energy. They are energy of the universe. They are a type of energy that even a nuclear bomb could not harm because it's not molecular. This is part of how people on Earth need to recover. It's not just about getting free of subconscious programs that misdirect them. That's in recent galactic history. It's about remembering who they are and the source they came from before they started incarnating and running bodies in the lower worlds and dimensions of time and space. It's much bigger than just saving Earth, what this work is about. So I want to make sure that people understand that. And then when I go on one of these little journeys we do, a guided journey, which we're about to do, they have a better grounded understanding of what it is we're doing. Why? Because people on Earth leave their bodies every single night. I'm talking the 7 billion people or so that live here. They're not aware that's what they're doing. Most of them are not. Some of them bring back dreams. Some people bring back dreams of flying in a physical body, free as a bird. Some of them fly around and police in that reality chase them, and they wake up back here the next day. Or they have what's called a nightmare. And all that is when they take fear of the present or the future with them to sleep at night, it creates the circumstances with this omnipresent field of energy that is everywhere between planets, moons, suns, and stars and galaxies. Toroidal 0 point. It is a co-creator with us. And it will manifest whatever you imagine in it, good or bad or both. The problem with people on Earth is they're busy creating negative fear of the future and good for their family simultaneously. And their consciousness is split in half. They're putting out energies that create opposing forces, according to the laws of physics. Every action creates an equal but opposite reaction. So it's imperative that people reawaken or recover, discover how to use their imagination, which is their ability as a being to see in the multiverse and know things, connect with it telepathically. It's made of the same energy. It's not made of the matter of a planet or a human body. It's more like the energy of the universe. That is what comprises the individual beings people call soul on Earth. Its potential is infinitely more vast than people have been told on this planet because it is a co-creator. It is from the source. It's made of the same source energy. It's identical in its potential and abilities as what people call the supreme being itself. But way up above what they think is a supreme being is the source. And it isn't a tyrant. And it never requested that we worship it or be subservient to it or sit at its feet and obey it or get sent to hell. Tyrant kings and priests, corrupted, did that on Earth. And they didn't originate that kind of thinking. That was imported here. In a history for this planet, people have no idea existed here. There have been beings coming here from other worlds for 65 million years since the dinosaurs were made extinct. Since it's extraterrestrial in nature, naturally the beings that are in control right now have classified and expressed all knowledge of that for the common people. because then you'd have to reveal so much more to people about the nature of forces and beings outside of this planet, most of whom are benevolent, couple that are tyrant, a small number, and they're being quarantined even now. So they can't come back to this world and do what they did after World War II. That process of getting them out of here was not done by people on Earth. They were being helped out of the trap they got themselves into. And they're going to get more help to get this done. This world, this planet we're on, has the potential to step into an entire new wondrous future. People have no idea what's potentially moving in the background behind all this. Okay, so what I do is I begin to help people by escorting them on a journey out of their body. They do it every night anyway. So what we're doing that's different, because this work is telepathic, meaning the being that I am, which is spherical, hovering above my head, running this brain and body, is talking to the same being that's running your bodies. And it's simply a process that's normal for people who know, who haven't been made to forget with this amnesia that people suffer from on Earth. And so when I guide this or serve as an example of it, people can hear my voice and the body goes into this trance state called sleep, just like they put it in every night anyway, like masters. All the people, as unconscious as they are on Earth, know how to do this. And they think it's the brain doing it. It's not. The brain doesn't go to sleep on automatic. You, the being, directs the pineal gland, the center of the brain, to secrete certain substances which put the body on automatic, breathing, heart running, blood working while you're gone. Every night. Every single night. People on Earth are terrified of knowing they aren't a body or a brain, because they think they are a body and a brain. They're afraid it's going to die, and they have this fear around it. And fear is an energy that gets in the way of people using their higher faculties, because the higher faculties do not work with any negative emotions or negative imaginations at all. Only negative tyrants and beings will work with that kind of energy. The dual current that runs through the lower dimensions of time and space is positive and negative. Everybody knows that. It's meant to be run as a harmonious energy, like the yin and yang symbol, two teardrops bound together with a whole other energy running through it, so that the positive and negative can be used to make form and create things in the physical worlds without creating a negative effect. It's one of the deeper secrets of eternity. How do you create without creating an opposite return? There is a way to do that, even in the physical worlds. I work with the first half of the word human. Human language, English, and others weren't created on Earth either. The age of an individual being, Atma or soul, cannot be measured in terms of time and space, because it did not come into existence in time and space or through bodies. It originated at the beginning with the source itself as source energy before anybody ever started playing with running bodies, and before the lower worlds of time and space were created. So how old are all of you, really? Now, I'm speaking about you that runs the body, not the brain and body you grew up in this one lifetime. Sharing this way, which is a telepathic function, not psychic. I'm not putting down psychic things. I'm just saying that psychic energy works with the positive and negative streams of the lower four dimensions. It does not work with those energies above the void in the upper realities. That is a pure positive energy, and it's a telepathic energy. This means a form of communication between beings and the source itself that cannot be messed with by creations that came after. Negative things, tyrants. They cannot get into pure telepathy working in negative ways. And it comes with a certain form of protection when you start working with it. It did not get created on Earth. No individual on Earth ever invented hue, HU, or the sound it sets up, or what it does in opening a door in the pineal gland, so a being can connect back to and begin to journey home to the source and remember all they once knew. This is a process that hooks beings up on the incoming or return energy to the source itself. It's like a breath. It goes out through all creation and comes back, and it's constantly in movement, in motion. It is not static energy. We go into the you to still the physical body and put it to sleep, but not the being who's aware of hearing my voice. But it also puts bodies you're running in other dimensions, like people have heard of the astral plane, often where people go when they first pass away from the physical body here. But there's a dimension above it, causal, mental, etheric, a big void, a barrier between the positive and negative streams of the lower dimensions of time and space, and those realities above that that don't have time and space. No planets, no moons, no suns, no stars. Constructs in living vital energy that float in this energy where beings create and do things without the effect of a subconscious or negative reality. So we will go on a journey, first of all, outside of the atmosphere of planet Earth. We do this to get out of the negative, condensed negative nature of all thoughts and feelings that are circulating inside the atmosphere, bouncing off the ionosphere. They're still here from day one. Everything done in Rome, everything done in the Yucatan, Aztec, Mayan, Nazi Germany, Egypt, Genghis Khan, cultures in the past, way before that, good ones and bad ones. All the things done are still floating around as frequency in the atmosphere of this planet. They do not go outside that atmosphere, and they can't pollute space because space is made of an energy that can't record any of that in it. If you really want to get into quantum physics as it's known off-world, then you have to understand what that energy is and how to work with it. I send out these tones in ever elevating pitches in order to help you get your bodies you're running, you're not even aware of, most of you, in other dimensions simultaneously with the body you're running here, because you are a spherically shaped being. Have you ever wondered why planets and moons and suns and stars are round? They're round because they are made in the image of their creators. Isn't that interesting? Everybody who ever hears one of these shows or ever goes on one of these journeys once knew this with confident certainty. They might be afraid to know it now, but fear is artificial. So get over it. Pull up your bootstraps, have a little courage, and leap into the unknown for your uplifting benefit. I will begin these tones now. This goes out to every living thing on this earth, none excepted. The body goes to sleep and there's no one home. You can't yell at someone. If you shock them awake and you jerk in their body and they come out of it. But the reason it snores, the reason no one can hear you is because there's no one home. One of the highest faculties beings are obviously kept running and could not be suppressed is the ability to run a body on automatic in the sleep state while you leave. Since no one on earth is taught openly by anyone how to leave their body consciously from childhood, from birth, by parents and societies and governments that encourage this, like they do in other normal human worlds, Earth is not normal. Not yet. One of the things that recently was done to this planet, and not by anybody on it, was the complete and permanent cessation of polar flips of this world. That has to be done first so that 100,000 years doesn't go by and then everything's wiped out. Then the place has to be colonized again. What a waste of time and energy and materials. This makes it possible for us to step up to bat, go through unexpected uplifting transformations, and take our place among the other star-faring races out there. They would give us the technology, even ships to get around, how to use them. If we could be trusted with it, it's very simple, really. You are a spherical being with a white core, golden and white core, and layers of teardrop shapes. These are individual higher faculties that are in concentric circles that form a sphere that make up what you are as an individual. What beings from other worlds call Atma, what people on Earth call soul without knowing the first thing about what it is, what it looks like, or how to move it around. That's not normal, that people on Earth do not know this and are afraid of it. Fear is the only thing in the way of them knowing it again. It is not some tyrant being out there that's keeping people stuck like this. It's subconscious programs affecting their decision making they don't even know they have. That's a shame. That needs to be corrected first. When I'm doing that, the being I am running this brain and body is connecting into the toroidal 0 point energy the so-called black void of space, which isn't black at all. And it's connecting telepathy into a type of energy that is not regulated by the limits of time and space and causation. It goes into an energy that is a living force that supports and is behind all the multidimensions of the universe. It comes from a much higher reality. It is a conscious living energy. It's not an individual being. And that energy is a co-creator with us as individual beings, just like it is with the source behind all life. Knowing this begins to change everything in the consciousness of a being on any planet. Working with the first sound behind creation that was there before the lower worlds of time and space were made is also working with the core of your own being. It's comprised of exactly the same energy. As a spherical being, what you call daydreaming, just imagine yourself being up near the ceiling, looking down on your body, sitting there with its eyes closed, asleep, but you are not. The creative imagination that we use to see, connect into telepathically into the multiverse, to this omnipresent force people call divine spirit, with really not knowing what it is or how to work with it. What we imagine it is what it co-creates with and for us. And it is unbiased and impartial in this respect. When you imagine in it, you actually are not using the brain at all. There's nothing in the brain that makes up the gray brain cells in a human skull that has the ability to imagine anything whatsoever. It isn't its function. That's not what it does. You, the being, when you daydream and you're somewhere bored at work or whatever, and you look out the window and you can see the office around you and people sitting at desks, for example, and you imagine being on a ski trip that weekend or with your lover or on another planet. When you begin to see that, well, your eyes are open even. It is you, the being running that body, that's spherical, that has the capability to see into the multiverse and see such things somewhere. It's one of the greatest secrets. Creative imagination is our ability to talk to, communicate with, and co-create with the source itself. This is something that needs to be awakened in people on Earth because it is definitely sleeping. There may be some gurus on Earth somewhere that really teach this, but it certainly isn't made public. And they certainly aren't taught it on Earth from childhood about how natural it is for them to know who they are that isn't a body or brain and how they move around the universe and what their purpose for existing is. I can tell you clearly right now what your purpose for existing is as a Atma or soul, an individual being. That purpose is to be a conscious, trustworthy, fully aware co-creator with the source behind all life. Period. That's it. No one is getting out of this. This is our purpose and destiny, and we're expected to pull up our bootstraps, grow a spine, and begin to do what we came into creation to do. And that function, in general, is to create new ways of doing things with that source so that we can make the lower dimensions of time and space mirrors of the worlds that exist beyond the void. We have not succeeded in doing that by any means, but it is underway for the first time beyond this world. We might as well get in step with it and co-create with it for our own uplifting benefit. It's common sense here, folks. It is our destiny. You can blow this world up and kill everybody on it and nobody will be dead. But there won't be any bodies around for you to experiment with, and you'd have to get one somewhere else and get it right. There's no escape. There's no permanent heaven anywhere that people are taken to, like babies. and given freedom when they haven't earned it and aren't willing to put any effort into getting it. There's no such thing. There are many higher realities with what you would call heaven in them, with beings living in ways you can't imagine, but they are not permanent places, not in the lower dimensions of time and space. To get permanency, you have to go across that void. All beings have the capability to do this, but they've long since made to forget it, or it's been suppressed in experiences they had before they found themselves incarnated on this world with little or no former memory intact. This is truth, what I'm telling all of you. My motivations are not about power and money and fame and fortune. I have published books out. I have screenplays written. They're heading toward the feature film business. But it's not about power and money. It's about helping change this world so it can survive in wondrous new ways. That is my motivation. It's enough. You are hovering above your body. Just imagine it. Daydream it. Imagine seeing it down there, sitting, sleeping, or lying down. Be in the atmosphere above Earth, above the ground, 10,000 feet. No matter where you are on Earth, you can see when you look around you, there are several beings floating nearby that are spherical, radiant, and beautiful. And you're in between a masculine and feminine being. And they show you a body form standing in the atmosphere that looks to be about 36, perfectly healthy, maybe bigger eyes, beautiful hair, a little different skin tone than people on Earth. And they're kind. And they're looking at you, and you see out in front of the sphere you are a body that looks like you, about 36, just a young adult, perfectly formed, perfectly healthy. This is pure energy. It's not molecular. And it can perceive the earth world and its senses and transmit that experience to the spherical atma that you are. And these are friends or guides that can help you every night when you're out of your body recover more of who you are if you ask them. They do not place themselves above you, and they do not ask you to worship them or put them on a pedestal. They see the potential you are, and they recognize it in themselves. That's really all you need to know about this association. Be in space above the planet as a spherical energy that is not suffer from heat and cold, doesn't feel radiation from the sun, and you're floating far above the earth, and you can see the polar ice caps, the continents. From here, you don't see individual structures like cities or roads, and you see all these land masses under one atmosphere around one planet. And you can see the moon circling that planet, covered in meteor craters. It has very little any atmosphere, very little gravity because it does not turn on its axis. It goes around the Earth and has a little gravity, but it always shows us the same face. What they call the dark side of the moon doesn't stay dark in a 24-hour period. It passes in front of the sun too. When the front side of the moon is dark to people on Earth, the back side is in sunlight. And here you are in space, like the space shuttle, but further out than the shuttle ever flew, further out than the International Space Station. And you are a being made of an energy of the universe itself, what we call the energy of the universe. On Earth, new terms are toroidal or 0 point. You are comprised of the energy you're looking at. When you look at the void of space and see billions of stars all around us that make up the Milky Way galaxy, it doesn't appear black to you like it does in time-lapse photography of the shuttle taking photographs, or the Hubble telescope, or deep space, or billions of galaxies. Colorful nebula. Those colors happen to be in frequencies like infrared, ultraviolet, X-ray, gamma ray, and all these other things they've labeled for higher frequencies of the speed of light. There is no limit to the speed of light other than what human eyes can detect, which is 286,000 miles per second, something like that. The mistake people have made on Earth about light is that there are no limits to its rate of motion. So the instruments can detect these higher frequencies, but it's one energy manifested in different levels. And that's all it really is. It's only difficult for people on Earth to imagine that one energy, this huge black void between all things floating in it, in all the multidimensional universe, as having consciousness, because in their ignorance, they think it's black, empty, void. It isn't. It's packed full of living energy, packed full. So here we are floating in it, and you can see it as the Atma floating in this form. The body that looks to be 36 standing in space just in front of the sphere you are sees it as a white golden light everywhere, and yet you can see all the stars superimposed on it easily. We get outside the atmosphere of Earth this way to get outside of the negative influences compacted in the atmosphere that are still there bouncing off the ionosphere like a radio wave. In space, there is no negative or positive nature. You can't bring negative emotions and imaginations here. You can carry them within your own being. But when you're in this form above the earth with myself and Perry and Torellian, who I'll introduce you to you in a moment, all subconscious negative drives are turned off with the sleeping body back on earth temporarily. So you can begin to remember from knowing up here without negative influence. Now, Torellian, you see a being, bright, luminous sphere in the center of all of us in a circle, hovering around this focus point to keep us focused on something constructive for this journey. And he is manifesting a body. It appears to be about 36, but it's 18 feet tall. Perfectly healthy, big blue eyes, slightly pointed ears, slightly curvy, long blonde hair, white tunic, standing there in sandals or bare feet. And he's got his two thumbs up, and there's a golden white light around them. He's simply maintaining a consistent energy of the toroidal or 0 point or energy of the universe in a consistent state while we're in it, so that we begin to remember in a safe environment. This is why he does this. He is the Seres ambassador from the Seres race. His ambassador Torellian. He is human in his form a billion years ago. Now he is in the pure form of the Atma, a little bigger and brighter than we are. And the form he's showing you is a form we can recognize that they once had. We get our DNA for human bodies we run on Earth originally from them. They were genetic scientists of a form, and they helped develop many bipedal upright walking races, human, humanoid, and others, out among the stars billions of years ago in the physical universes and astral plane, and then vanished to see what we would do with it. They work with the source energy. They've recently returned to help make a change and to take responsibility on once again to help people head away from this constant up and down motion of destruction and construction, good and bad, positive and negative, and into something else. The white golden light you see all around us, the golden aspect, is a new conscious construction ray moving through what people call divine spirit. It didn't exist there before, about 8 or 9 years, Earth years ago, even out there. And it's moving in one direction throughout creation. All we need to do is move with it to not only be set free as beings, to remember who we are, but so we can make the creation something better than it's ever been before. And it's going to take all of us and all the people on Earth and all the beings in the universe working collectively together to implement retiring the old failed experiment of evil and good with something that actually motivates all beings to only use the creative imagination for the uplifting benefit of all life, not just life on Earth, all of it. You look down at the earth and the vibration is raised, and you see the earth in its place change before your eyes. It becomes a world with no polar ice caps. It has oceans, beautiful blue-green oceans you can see from space. A huge continent centered over the equator from the left to the right hemisphere that extends upward to about a third of the way below the North Pole and then extends downward about a third of the way above the South Pole. There is a continent two-thirds its size centered over the equator on the upper side of the planet. You can see right through the planet. You look at the moon and you realize that now that moon has a full oxygen atmosphere, rain clouds and little rivers and mountains, 5 dome cities on the front side. Huge. And there are 3 4-sided golden pyramids with quartz-like crowns centered on one half of it. And as the moon turns on its axis, you see 2 dome cities in the mountainous region on the back side coming into view. And the sun way off in the distance, the yellow sun we call Sol. This is an Earth and a moon that exists in the third higher parallel dimension of the physical universe. It is not astral. It's still within the physical universe because there are 144 parallel dimensions of different realities of worlds and beings in the physical universe before it steps into the next higher, I hesitate to use the word heaven because it isn't, but the next higher major division, a dimensional division. This has been here for ages. Down on the near the lower point of the continents, about a third of the way from the South Pole, is a crescent-shaped, glowing emerald green beach you can see from space. And from space, you can see, like you have telephotic lens, you can see through the atmosphere, and you can see that that curved crescent-shaped beach is about a mile curve, has a brown moss-covered path going through jungle trees that leads to a clearing, circular white marble floor, and a statue of a woman made of quartz standing there. And it winds its way up the mountainside, and you see a mountain inland of this tropical paradise that's snow-covered, glacier-covered. And to the left, down on the lower plateau where this winding moss-covered path leads, is a huge dome covering a city. 3 4-sided, golden-sided quartz-capped pyramids, they are devices. And in the background, a semicircular small mountain range with little waterfalls running down it, put there for the aesthetic pleasure of the people who work there. And an emerald green lake in the center of it, little ivory-colored dome dwellings all through a countryside with little winding white moonstone-looking stone paths. There's a waterfall cascading out of the left side of the mountain 2/3 of the way towards the summit. It's pouring down a sheer cliff face thousands of feet. It's glowing with an emerald blue-green light. It's phosphorescent. So there are minerals in it that glow. And it's dumping behind a blue-green forest that surrounds the backside of that dome city. You look at that emerald green beach again, and suddenly you look down and you see your toes. Remember that body that's 36, made of energy? The spherical you hovering above it? And you can see all of us on this journey standing 6 feet apart or a few feet apart, wiggling our toes in this emerald green sand that's glowing with green light a foot above the sand. Reach down with your hand, pick it up, and you look at these little particles of sand, and you realize, you know, they are pure emerald crystals, polished round, or spheroid, but they're very smooth, they don't hurt your feet, and they're glowing. You let the sand go, and you look up smiling, and you see the sphere you are, and the white core of the being, and layers of teardrop shapes that make up the structure of what you are as a soul and Atma. White core, a layer so thick of teardrop shapes that's now yellow, then orange, then green, then blue, and lavender and violet, or violet and lavender, and then a kind of a white golden light surrounding it. That is what we look like. It's made in the image of the source, not a human body. And you look up smiling, and this energy moves up your feet from this green beach. It is soothing and cooling and warming at the same time. It spirals up around your body, out the top of your smiling face, and into the white core of your being. and it's moved out into the green layer where it turns on certain of these higher faculties. They start to light up. This is a gift. That beach is charged with a certain energy that has to do with memory and recall. Inland, when you look at the back of this curved, how would I do it? I guess like that. The back of it, you look behind you, you can see Turellian standing 18 feet tall, up to his knees in ocean water, with his two thumbs out, glowing with golden light, smiling at you. Inland, about a mile, is a 100-foot wide marble white floor with a statue of a woman, 10 feet tall, polished quartz, standing on a pedestal, with her two hands up, glowing with a ball of green light around each one, and you immediately know that this device is charging that beach. And when you look at this woman, tall, elegant gown, taller neck, longer fingers, longer legs, they're 10 feet tall. She has violet eyes, beautiful woman, slightly pointed ears, hair like silver metal, but you can tell it's soft, you can touch it. It's the way the statue's carved. And inside the statue, right in the surface, you can see a woman smiling at you. And she moves into the background. You can see a gold band around her forehead in the statue with what's called a teardrop-shaped emerald cut or faceted emerald stone. And when you look into it, you can see this 10-foot tall woman standing in the air of a green atmosphere, bigger than a soccer stadium. And she invites you in. So we all move as spherical beings hovering around this with Turellian right through this crystal statue into a green energy, and we're moving and hovering around her. You can see her physical form that looks to be 36, smiling at her. She's smiling back. When you look above her, you see this brighter Atma than us hovering there. And her name is Freshun Muntas. She's not from Earth. She is a humanoid being from a planet on the other side of the Milky Way galaxy called Xiantraman 1. Xiantraman 1. And now standing beside her is her mate, who's a little taller, silver hair, violet eyes, and they point off into the green atmosphere, and you see a world formed there like a hologram. And it's a planet 4 times bigger than Earth, covered in little continents and little oceans everywhere, no polar ice caps, and domed cities, dozens of them, equally spaced around the planet's surface. And then 3 moons at different distances that are the size of planet Earth with the same but no polar ice caps. And then they show you what that planet and moon system is circling around. It's circling around the 3rd orbital path around a trinary sun system. That means their big central sun is a big blue giant, blue-white giant, young star. Further out is a yellow sun like Sol, our Earth sun, and further out a red dwarf. And they circle that parent sun, and these planets circle all 3. It's a trinary system. And they point to that world, and you see them move, shrink down into the atmosphere, floating in this atmosphere, and we go with them. You suddenly find yourself hovering above this body that looks to be about 36, walking along a snake-like lavender sandy path next to a kind of a lighter lavender-colored river that's moving snake-like. And in the background is a long mesas like you'd see in Sedona, Arizona, flat-topped, and a big dome cities in the background. And we're moving on this path. Turellian is simply hovering above us in his big 18-foot tall body with the spherical being hovering behind him. And you see approaching us on this path, by this river, this couple, walking in the bodies that are physical bodies they have on that planet. The man's name is Zonentalus. The woman is Freshun Muntis. Fresuhmontis in English, as you would phonetically try to pronounce it. They are genetic scientists like the Sares, but they are the bodies they're showing you on that planet. They're telling you are 3.5 million years old. You can see the atmas they are hovering above them. They're not trapped in them. They maintain this form to supervise the worlds, which make up a little more than half of the Milky Way galaxy, and they're kind. They're showing you their world. When you look up in the sky, you can see a moon and two further out, and you can see little dome cities on it. It's closer to this planet than our moon. And then you find yourself hovering in this green atmosphere, looking at the holographic presentation of this world and moons like Earth and the triple suns, and then they vanish. Both beings place their hand over their chest. They're doing it now out of respect to you. So do the same to them. If you ask them here and now to assist you or some of their associates to help you remember who you are when you're out of your body every night on Earth, they will. Be sincere. And you find yourself in space, hovering around Turellian, Ambassador Turellian. There's a little creature named Etta. He's a Durand. He's a silica-based creature from a planet called Oceana on the other side of the Milky Way galaxy, opposite side from Xiantranomon 1, where this couple was. It's a mostly water-covered world with a few islands near the equator with dome cities on it, with 3 pyramids in them as well. And there is a being standing there off to the right of Turellian, about 6 feet, with shiny black hair, long hair, slightly pointed ears again, emerald green eyes, and a kind of a pale blue skin. And he's holding up his hands, his little webs between them, little longer fingers than Earth people. And in little gills under his neck, he lifts his neck. He can show you 3 little slits here. They don't look like a fish. They're very unobtrusive. You wouldn't even know they were there unless he lifted his neck. And these are humans on another world that can breathe underwater or on land. And they are one of the most advanced races. And he is representative of a blue-skinned race. One of the first races that were brought up to spacefaring capability by the Sares a long, long ago in galactic history. They have the most advanced crystalline-based science in the galaxy. And he is a master teacher. Etta, next to him, is about 3 feet long, lives in underground, hollowed-out caverns at the bottom of their oceans, and his race has developed the ability to levitate and fly through the air. He's 3 feet long from his cute nose to the tip of his tail. Long snout, looks like he's smiling when his mouth is closed. Big bulbous blue eyes, pale green, smooth skin, it's not wet. And strong upper and bottom arms and legs. And he's standing on his hind legs with the tail out behind him, glowing like rare gem crystal opal in bright sunlight. And he's wiggling his fingers at us because they have fingers and thumbs like a human. So do his feet. But he is not human. His DNA is silica-based, not carbon. And he is a master teacher. I'm introducing you to these beings so you get more familiar with the kind of thing you should know about and be at ease and comfortable being around such beings. We are keeping this journey close to Earth. We are still above this Earth and Moon in a higher parallel dimension at a higher molecular time rate in the physical universe. Earth as it is and the Moon we have now are destined to become like this. And this world, Earth, and this Moon are going to be used as a prototype to make that happen when the time is right. When you look at the Earth and the Moon, you see them change, kind of you feel of lowering of vibration, but it doesn't bring you down. It's just lowering of vibration of the hue of the omnipresent co-creative sound and create 0 point toroidal energy. It has parallel dimensions in each major division, but it's not nuclear, it's not atomic, it's not protons, it's not electrons, it's not neutrons. It is the energy behind supporting such things. And you can see the Earth with the polar ice caps now and the barren moon circling it that does not turn on its axis, and the sun in the distance. You can see the white golden light that fills the void of space. When you look at a picture from now on, a time-lapse photography of, say, the Hubble of billions of galaxies and nebula, when you see the black void between it, remember that that is an even higher white golden light, and you'll be seeing it correctly. Now you're hovering in the atmosphere on Earth, about 10,000 feet from where you live, and you are hovering there with a man and a woman, two beings. The physical forms they're showing you, these are Galactic Alliance members, which is an organization of world systems centered on a planet near the galactic core of the Milky Way galaxy. In English, it would be called the Galactic Interdimensional Alliance of Free Worlds, because it is. They are highly trained technicians, equivalent, say, of maybe 10 PhDs to anybody on Earth, which they gain by the time they're 10. They're showing you the body forms they have in physical reality, stationed on craft now, about 30-foot scout craft that patrol our solar system as a form of keeping tyrants outside it. There is a long ship, a mile long, cylindrical, with a bridge control on each end, stationed in the ice rings that make up, big chunks of ice that make up the rings of the planet Saturn in our solar system. They come from that ship, which is permanently stationed there for now. From here, you can see out into the solar system as an atmos. Torellian showing you this. And you find yourself hovering above the rings of Saturn, instantly moved through time and space on this omnipresent golden white energy, 0 point energy of the universe. And you can see this ship stationed there with a blue glow around its hull, an anti-gravitic field, and a number of scout craft, 3 hemispheric pods on the bottom, moving down into the hull, the central section of the ship. They're landing in a hangar bay, but they don't go through an open launch bay door on this type of craft. They raise their molecular time rate with the electromagnetic field around the craft and pass right through the molecules of the ship, then lower the vibration and land on a huge hangar bay. Now we're looking at the asteroid field between Mars and Jupiter. We're instantly hovering above with Torelli and all of us around him like planets around a sun. And you can see a huge floating four-sided golden-sided pyramid with a quartz-like cap. It's gigantic. It's many times larger than the one in Egypt. And it's floating stationary between two stationary asteroids in the asteroid field between Mars and Jupiter. It is there in physical matter in our solar system, but it is not made of physical matter. And it has a purpose. And now we are inside the atmosphere of Earth as you know it, up in the high atmosphere. And Torellian is showing you 3 pyramids that are stationed on Earth. 2 the bottom of Earth's deepest oceans in the Atlantic and Pacific, and 1 in a special mountain hollowed out in the Himalayas. And they are a white golden beam of energy connecting those 3 to the one in the asteroid field. And the one in the asteroid field is connected to ones now stationed between individual stars in the Milky Way galaxy. And they are turned on. And they have a purpose for bringing about the motivation of all beings to imagine only that which will be of uplifting benefit to all life in the grand multiverse, not just life on Earth. This takes a leap up in conscious awareness to start to remember and perceive just how vast the creation is and the life that's in it. This is required in order for us to fulfill our purpose as co-creators with the source behind all life, which is our reason for existing. And then you find yourself hovering above your body near the ceiling, wherever you are. If you're in a car, above the car. If you're in a field, above the grass or blanket you're laying on. And you look down upon that sleeping body with kindness, realizing that that brain should be working on 100%. It's 100% developed. And you can see a thin beam of white golden light extending from the white core of your being that's spherical to the pineal gland or the pineal gland, the center of the brain, lighting it up. And then it moves out through your brain, turning on things, and continues outward until it's about 2 miles wide, like the aura of Buddha was said to have been. This is your sphere of influence. Be cautious that you only imagine uplifting things for the benefit of all life in that field, because this one energy in the universe will flow through you now by your conscious co-creative will to help make this change. The more you work with this, the more confident you will be in remembering how to work with it and why. When you're ready, open your eyes.
Wow. Thank you for the journey, Scott.
We stayed closer to home. Instead of going to the Hue Expansion Ray Academy or up in the upper worlds above the void, because people need to get some kind of grounded experience, at least about recovering how to be out of their body, how it works. When they go to sleep at night, they could consciously leave their body, but it's terror and fear of the unknown that keeps them from remembering what they're doing. In other words, they don't bring back the awareness of where they go and what they do because of how they were brought up here and because of how they were conditioned against their will before they were compelled to incarnate in a body here with no memory. That's all reversible. So that's why these journeys are done the way they are. We start outside the atmosphere of Earth to get outside of the negative field. That's why astronauts, when they're up there in space, they feel like they're in touch with God. They've all said it because they're like out in this huge void, floating above a planet and a moon. And they're actually in this primordial 0 point energy. And it's going to be uplifting. It might be scary, but they find it enlightening, I think. So you got any questions, Perry?
Scott, can you talk about when people praying for something?
Yeah, okay. When people are praying, they're imagining something. Usually something they want selfishly, or maybe they're praying for a loved one, or maybe praying for somebody to be cured of this or that. All miracles that cure things, bodies, are only temporary, because those bodies eventually will die anyway. No matter if you're cured of blindness or cured of cancer, it's neat and all that, but it doesn't wake the Atma up to the fact that it isn't that body. So when people pray, they're praying to something they're told is divine spirit, but they really don't understand it or how to talk with it. So they babble and talk and say this and that, and in the name of a savior, in the name of Buddha, whatever. But really the proper way isn't to pray to it. It is an omnipresent living energy from the source itself, a telepathic medium, and it really wants us to co-create with it consciously. So if people imagine good things for the good of all life and put it into that field, it will provide the power and the means omnipresently to bring it into reality. The way people are working unconsciously on Earth, they're bringing good and bad things into their life all the time. And it will simply accommodate them. Because eventually they're going to have to recover why their lives are like they are. If they want to change this world and the way their lives are, they have to start working with this one energy in a more conscious, knowing manner. It is a co-creator with us, and we are made of an energy from the source itself, and that's our function.
Okay, thank you. And for those who sleep during the journey, please do not worry. This experience happened to
Yeah,
everyone.
perfectly normal. You're used to going unconscious with the body when you put it to sleep because you don't know any better. It just takes a little bit of guidance, a little bit of remembering to start to stay alert when the body goes to sleep. That is what this process is for. There's no money being charged any of you. There's no government or monetary system involved. The energies that are brought through this little Zoom thing, are not from this earth, but they're meant for your uplifting benefit. And I will leave you all with that. Pleasant dreams. Until
Okay,
next time.
for those who want to go to your website, just go under this video. Okay, we will provide the links for you.
Yeah, and I want to also make mention that this is one of the two books that my publishing company publishes now, not through another publisher. I've stopped doing that. I do it myself. This is the ship I talked about on the front cover of the Savior's Agenda. These are the ice rings that make up the rings of Saturn. These are the galactic scout craft entering the midsection. This is a man. These are actually actors that portrayed these parts to make these original artwork for these books. They are not taken from the internet. In the background are three assailants trying to kill him. They are not human and they're not from Earth. Part of this tree is being blown away, and this ship with a human pilot not from Earth is beaming him aboard. That's Mark Sanfield. So he's on a solo camping trip in the High Sierra Mountains in California. And he's written a conspiracy theory book about a hidden government that's misdirecting things, become very popular, and somebody's trying to kill him, and he gets rescued. So it starts his journey into recovering who he is, and he's not from Earth. He doesn't know it yet. In the back of this book is an entire special technique section for one technique for the prologue and one each for each of the 29 chapters. And it deals with the hue and working with the hidden truth that's revealed in the journey of Mark Sanfield and his cousin Janice Carter waking up, finding out that they are extraterrestrial, that they've been imprisoned on Earth, and that they are recovering who they were before they were born here. This technique section, when you get into that, it's one of the gifts of this book. Those techniques are there. The other book that I've published is called The Emerald Doorway. And it's book one of 3 books that are written. This one's now published. These are human beings not from Earth. This is a master teacher with a maroon robe. He's holding up a crystal staff made of quartz with an Egyptian Ankh symbol for infinity on top, which didn't originate in Egypt. This is the ancient one in the book, coming from the 5th dimension above the void to be introduced to these people by this master. This is a galactic scout ship stationarily hovering. He's the pilot. This is a fiancé, a flame, blue-skinned Oceanian woman. Remember the planet Oceania that I talked about? This is Etta, a little Dren creature, silica-based, very sentient, very wise, courageous to a fault. And they're being introduced to what this looks like, this source. And one of those is hovering above each of their heads. These beings, other than him, don't yet know is there. This is 100,000 years ago, right after the poles flipped, destroying Lemuria and Athol, which was an almost independent colony we called Atlantis, on the other side of the world, 3/4 its size. And what was left was a small volcanic island, which became popularized by Edgar Cayce, was destroyed 35,000 years ago. That's not the original Atlantis or Lemuria. There have been a number of these polar flip cycles for this planet. When you get into this book, it will explore and open a doorway to remembering a history you've been made to forget. It involves extraterrestrials. All of them are. This is a guy who wants power. He's holding the earth in his hand and a stolen crystal, a very powerful crystal. And you'll find out about who he is. So this is more about the ancient past in our solar system, which involves the revelation of how a planet got destroyed that circles in the orbit of an asteroid field between Mars and Jupiter today. This is more about what's changing out in the universe amongst extraterrestrials and master teachers that makes it possible for Earth not only to not have any more polar flips, but to go through a transformation for the first time. So that will help all of you. And as Perry said, the addresses for the websites I have for 3 support websites and 1 primary website at paralleltime.com. You can find out more about it. Nothing's sold at the websites. I do provide links to get the books at Amazon or Barnes & Noble or iBooks in either trade paperback or ebook. And I published I'm also a musician. I published a music album called um, Stranger on a Lost Island. And the Lost Island is Earth, of course. So those are all available. Links are provided there for you to go and get those if you want them. Everything at the websites is no charge. If you go to the website and click on the link at the top, it says About Scott-HU, first half of the word human hidden in plain sight. And you can go to it and hear a recording of my voice sending out the U in 3-part harmony, continuously looped so it's a constant tone for 24 minutes about. And you'll hear a round hole sound running through the middle of it. I didn't put there. Torellian put that there. It wasn't in the original recording. So you can tune into that and get some uplifting help whenever you're in trouble, when you need some help. You can go there and play that and do your own hue with it anytime you wish. Okay?
Okay, so thank you, Scott, and thank you everyone for watching. If you think this video benefits you and benefit others, please share, like, and subscribe.
Thanks for having the courage to do this with me every week, Perry. We've done, what, hundreds now, I guess.
You're welcome. Yes.
Okay, pleasant dreams. Have a great day in Thailand, and I will see you all later.
Okay, bye.
Bye.